Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Wednesday. And the Writing Community Chat Show is back with a fantastic episode that's coming up for you guys. And it's someone we've had on before, and we can't wait to get this person on. Always brings a big crowd with him. Massive, as they say. But also, Mr. Hooley's back into the stairs.
Yeah, indeed.
Man of many words, obviously. No loft today. No loft.
No, it's nice and warm under the stairs. In fact, it's a bit too warm. Especially with Marion on the show. I'm nervous. I might have to take a few layers off. Yeah. Oh, people already know, surely.
Well, I hope so, yeah. Well, we have advertised it, so it's a bit weird if they didn't know. Yeah, so it's a bit cozy under the stairs, I guess. You're getting a bit sleepy.
No, not sleepy, just very warm. So, yeah. But talking of warmth, and again, this is a loose link. I put a tweet out about an hour ago. Slightly longer than that, actually, about an hour and a half ago, for books to buy on the show, because we're going to buy a book at the very beginning, and then people have a chance to win that book throughout the course of the show. So I'm going to have a little look at that in a minute when you're doing other little bits. I'm going to look through and I'm going to buy a book live on the show. We've had loads of interest in it, so it could be your book if you're watching right now. Could be yours, and even if it's not, stick around because you could win it. So yeah,
and Friday's show, we're giving away more books for hitting 5,000 listens on the podcast. So thank you very much. Please subscribe, please share, please like, and all that stuff if you haven't done so already. Thank you, guys. And before we get on our guest, the wonderful Mario, let's do the beer. Let's get my words. Beer token book promotion, and always. As always, this is a fantastic opportunity for authors to promote their work, and it gives back to the show, and it enables us to keep the show going because it costs some money, and eventually we're going to get some great competitions out there. So thank you. And tonight's sponsor is Victoria Marshwell. Not Marshwell, The Counterfeiter's Daughter, Kindle and paperback, 5 stars, 5 out of 5 after 9 ratings. And let me just pop up the cover there, because it is quite fantastic. And it does remind me very much, it's very Top Gun-esque, I think, on that motorbike. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
it looks good. It's got some great reviews. It says, join Madeline on a thrilling journey of romantic suspense, from disillusionment to faith, bitterness to forgiveness, and loneliness to the prospect of love. It does, if that's your kind of thing. Then please check it out. We will leave links to that in the podcast description.
And so if you do sponsor the show with a beer book promotion token, then please throw in as many big words as you possibly can. Because it's always funny to see us mess up.
When you say yes, it's always me. But I'll put that up in the top corner. Mr. Hooley's missed it. So there it is in the top corner, Hooley. Oh, yay! Victoria rocks, says Halo. Excuse me, coughing. So, before we ramble on too long without the main star on the show, should we get him on, Chris?
Can I just buy this book first?
Oh, so, if you really want to, yeah.
Yeah, the book I've decided to buy from all the books is by John Kennedy, and it's called The Trauma Pool. So I'm going to buy a gift copy of that now on Amazon. So if you want to win a copy of that, just retweet this show, retweet it, and what can we do? Something fun that's to do with trauma.
Well, there's not a lot of fun to do with trauma, is there?
Well, we can make it fun.
A VSS tweet.
Yeah,
a VSS trauma tweet. Tag the show over the next course of this hour when we do the interview, and we will pick one out on the show, and we will give that person who writes the best VSS very short story about trauma. We'll win that and deliver that book to them through email. Off you go. Get on it.
Because it's been so successful, I think we'll do it every week. So every show that we've got, it might cost us a lot of money, but I think we'll buy a book every time and gift it to somebody. So well done, John Kennedy, today. We're spending money before we've even earned it. But
well done, Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah, but well done, Mr. Kennedy. If you're watching, fantastic. If he's not watching, tag him, tell him, let him know that what we've just done. We've just bought his book, and we're gifting it to somebody. So yeah, brilliant.
Should have done it last week for Thanksgiving, Mr. Kennedy. Anyway, let's move on for tonight's guest, because he is a massive part of this show. Because the writing community, what this is all about, he is one of the founders, the historical founders of the writing community, and is all about everything that we do. So we can't wait to get this person on. and I'll stop talking. So here he is. Welcome to the show, Mario.
Greetings. Nice to be
Hello,
here.
Mario. It's great to have you back. The man that was once a self-published, but now is is now as a published author.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Just dropped yesterday. So hey, hello. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm not running after everything. I'm just like at the mercy of the publisher.
Yeah, it's a crazy transition, and we will get into that very soon. But obviously, just in case there are people listening to this or the people watching this that don't know who you are, I know it's small world. Can you just give a little bit of history about your writing, and then we'll jump into your new work?
Sure. I started writing only a few years ago. My first book was published in 2018, and it was primarily just me telling the story of a traumatic event that happened, a sailing adventure gone wrong, and I have that book there. See,
very nice.
And it was a book that I had to get out of my system, and I had no plans of writing anything further. And then I caught the bug, and the following year, my first foray into fiction.
That was seamless, Mario. Seamless,
and that's my life partner. So I caught the bug just a few years ago, and so I just every summer I write another book. It seems so.
So the summer romance.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah. There's a lot of love for you on the chat. There is, Mario, and Ash is in the house. Oh, that is
Ash.
Mario. Sorry, I'm just reading out what I can see now. I can't. It's not working.
I love my Ross.
Yeah, looking awesome. Mario says, Lalai. Hello to you.
Thank you.
And Vince is in the house. I read Mario's book. Tremendous, he said. Tremendous. It's fantastic. Yeah. So, having been a self-published author, now moving into the published world, that obviously is a journey that a lot of people will kind of either think about definitely in their self-published career or writing life. Some people might be put off about that idea. Some people might really want that. So how did that come around? And was it a surprise, or was this something that you worked towards?
Well, so, it's the whole process has been so how shall I say, difficult. So, I mean, when I wrote my first book, I just wanted to get the story out there. And I did, query it a little bit, but I knew this much about the whole publishing world. And I was like, oh, the hell with this. This is just too much work. I'm going to put it out there. I want people to read it. And I did that for the second book as well. Queried it a little bit. And then I was like, okay, it's like I was dipping my toes in the water. And then I was like, nah, the water's too cold. I'm getting out. The thing is that I've had a great experience with self-publishing, and who knows, my future books may go that direction too. I don't know. I mean, publishing is obviously a world that is fickle, and just because a publisher loves your first book doesn't mean they're going to love your next book. You would hope that they do, but you don't know. It's not guaranteed. So I have to say that I'm very happy about being published with 5310 Publishing out of Canada. They were really great. The reason why I really held on to this one was because I thought, well, it's a little bit controversial, which we'll talk about, I'm sure. And I wanted it. I thought that it might get a wider audience, and it would be better if I had a publisher behind me who believed in it. And lent it some credibility, and I don't know if it does that or not.
So Mario, with this book, everyone that I've talked to about it and told them about the plot of New Men, they've all gone, ooh. So how did you actually pick that publisher and say, do you know what, this is the publisher for me? I'm really happy with this deal, and I can't wait for them to get hold of this book.
Well, it's interesting. There were three interested publishers in this, and I think what really helped me a lot was doing a lot of research and reading different articles about being aware of who the independent publishers are. Don't just jump at anyone who just is interested in your book, because you don't know. In the first couple of publishers, one had very few titles under their belts. Another one had a good number of others, but then I contacted their authors and I said, hey, what's your experience like with them? And they said, great people, but I could have done just as well on my own. So, I just decided to hold back. And this publisher, 5310, I found on, or they found me, I found them on Twitter, which is very interesting. Twitter has become such an important part of my writing experience. This writing community is a perfect example of it. And so what I liked about them is that they were really hungry for my book. They really believed in it. And I guess that's the thing. I mean, some of the many rejections I've gotten are like, I don't think I could be the best person to sell your product. And it's like, well, good. I don't want you to if you don't believe in it. So, and I love them over there. Lots of individual attention. So.
Brilliant. So Mario, tell us a little bit about New Men then, for those of out there who don't know what it's about. Obviously, I said that everyone I've talked to about it has gone, ooh. So can you tell us a little bit about it?
So I have it right here. And the cover's a little bit racy for me. Even though I talk a good game, I'm pretty conservative. So, not really conservative, but I'm, I wouldn't be throwing my abs up on a book cover. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, Mario. That cover gives me dad bod envy, because, well, not dad bod envy, but because he hasn't got a dad bod, he's got the opposite. But I look down and go,
right. So but at any rate, the story is really based on a year I spent in Rome as a seminarian. And, all during that year, of course, I was 22 years old, 22, 23, and in the seminary in the Vatican. And, all through everything that happened to me and my friends, we constantly said, oh, somebody should write a book about this. So could you imagine if we wrote a book about this? And, and I still remember somebody said, oh, yeah, the title should be What I Did for Love. And we were like, oh, that's salacious, in the seminary, what I did for love, and
Mario, I can just picture you just being stood there, really pensive looking and just drifting off and thinking about the books you could write.
Yes. Yes, I can picture that as well.
So what we're doing on the podcast, by the way, is we're looking at a photo of Mario in his young 20s, looking fabulous, dressed in your attire. Do you want to explain this photo slightly?
Yes, that's called a cassock, and it's the attire. It's clerical garb. It's what priests and seminarians wore and do still wear. And that particular outfit, it was unique to the seminary I was in, the North American College. So that's red, white, and blue. It's a red sash, the white collar, and then you can't really see it in the photo, but blue piping and buttons, because we were called the West Point of seminaries. So and that's me right outside the seminary gate. And to be quite honest with you, I was in the first few weeks of my time there, and my friends and I were looking for something silly to do and a little bit irreverent, if you would. And so we dressed up in these cassocks and went down to St. Peter's Square and took photos all over the place, and to send them back to our friends and in the States to say, yeah, this is where, I'm holy now.
Lalai said on the chat, she said, "Did you pitch your manuscript at PitMad on Twitter?"
I did. I think I did it at least twice, perhaps 3 times. I did it. The first time I did it was last year in November, I guess, or whenever it was last year at this time. Then I did it in the spring. So just twice. And I had 1 or 2 people interested in it, and then nothing came of that. So actually, I rewrote it over last summer. I completely reworked it. It was going to be a sequel to Body and Soul, and then one of my former students, who's actually an English teacher, teaches at a school in Connecticut in the East Coast. I let him read it, and he was like, "You've got handcuffs on you. Just go crazy. Do what you want with this. Don't be making it a sequel. Just make it happen." So
Mario, how was it writing such a? Obviously, you told us a little bit about the backstory, and it seems like it's a uniquely personal novel to write. So, how did you go about writing it? And when you'd finished it, who did you send it to first, and what was sort of that feeling like?
So that's a really great question. Thank you. Yeah. So what I did was, there were so many stories and that I had in my head that I had remembered. Plus, one of the things that you may or may not know is that I'm a really dedicated journaler, or I have been throughout my whole life. I started in college keeping a daily journal, and so I had a lot of stories written down. So the first thing I did was read my journal. And then I called a bunch of my former classmates and said, "What are your memories of that year or your time there?" And they would tell me stories I didn't know. And I took notes. And so what I did was I created 3 characters and took everybody's experiences and made a story about all the stories or all the events that happened to all of these different people in my life from that year. So the 3 characters are really a composite of the experiences of about 15 guys.
Wow.
So, and then I had to create a story to kind of put the thread. So how
did that narrative go about in terms of structuring it? So you've got your 15 classmates who you spoke to, and you've drawn all the memories together, and then obviously your job as an author is to present this story and this narrative. So how did you go about sort of dividing those stories in your head, and what did you want to achieve with each character?
Yeah. So what I did, first of all, I thought was to do it as the academic year, like start with, I really started with a story that happened to me. I was so excited to be there. I just was so idealistic. I was going to change the world. I was going to make, be the person to be at somebody's side whenever they needed somebody to talk to. And I still remember walking up the seminary stairs with the bells tolling, like you wouldn't believe the sound of the bells, and then walking up the stairs and seeing St. Peter's Basilica right there, so close I could touch it, and all the faculty and guys applauding us as we entered the chapel, and all I could say was, "This is wonderful! This is wonderful!" And they used to call me Mr. Wonderful, and because I was so idealistic. So I start with that kind of experience, that idealism, that that dream to light the world on fire, and then follow that throughout the academic year, and how that transitions into loneliness, into infatuation, into disappointment. And so I follow the seasons, and so I just decided to make it a 1-year experience. And then I had to change the order of certain things. Like there were events that had happened to different people that I'd move around, and sometimes they were one character and I'm like, nah, it doesn't work for him. It'll work for that character, So
a question in the chat from Ron. It says, another question: what made you choose 5310 Publishing in the end? What made them better than the rest for you to give your book to? Because obviously there's a big trust process within that, and you mentioned that selection was important to not give your work to someone who might not do the best with it. So what was your decision? What made you choose that company in the end?
Well, they're a young company, and they had a couple of bestsellers already. And that, for me, I was like, well, that's great. Bestsellers in a very young company bodes well. They also were very interested in it. They wanted to know the backstory. The contract was really great. They cared about what I was doing. I asked them, it's interesting, because everything is done online now. I wanted to have a Zoom call with them. And they said, usually we don't do that until, after somebody signs with us. And I was like, yeah, I'm a face-to-face person. I need to feel comfortable with you. And so that's what we did. And I was like, okay, I always go by my gut, I get the facts, but, I really follow my gut. And I felt good with them. And I really love it. Eric Williams is the editor and the owner, and I just adore him. He's great, and he knows a lot. So that's how I went with them. They were just they checked off all the boxes for me. They were hungry for it. They really wanted to sell it. They thought it was a story that they could. Plus, they're international too. They have a bestseller in Japan and a bestseller in Brazil in Portuguese, and I'm like, wow, I like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sorry, Chris, just jump in there. There's a hard-hitting question coming from Halo to do with your new book, and obviously it's one that's going to be asked, and it's good to get this out of the way. How did you not become cynical?
Halo. Good question. Obviously, I did become cynical. When I left at the end of that year, I did go back. I gave it another try. It's very complicated. I got very angry. I couldn't let go of this dream of becoming a priest. I always wanted to be one. I've always wanted to help people. I've always wanted to be there in people's greatest times of need and in greatest celebrations of joy. Right. So that was me. And I did get resentful and cynical about the way, in particular, they treated gay people, when there was obviously such a huge population of gay people in, when I say gay, I mean LGBTQ plus. That's what we used to call it then. And, but in particular, gay men in the priesthood, lots of them, and some are celibate and some are not. Everybody, just like straight guys, some of them are celibate and some are not. And, regardless of the vow they take. So I just felt, I remember in 1986, the Vatican came out with a ruling that said that gay people were oriented towards moral evil. And at that moment, I was actually pursuing priesthood again. I had left for 5 years. I was teaching, and I was going to become a Jesuit, a teaching priest. And that was when I called it quits. I remember saying to the Jesuit that was my spiritual director at the time, I said, I can't be the spokesperson for an institution that thinks I'm oriented towards evil. I know I'm good. I know that with my heart. I know that with my mind. And he was like, I understand. This is hurting a lot of people. But I think I have always found a very wonderful community of people within that church. And, I think institutions are just necessarily flawed by nature. because they're human. And so I'm not going to count on them to be perfect, and I'm not going to espouse everything they say, and I'm going to use my own brain and my own heart, and I'm going to make the choices that I think are morally correct, and just move forward.
Well, thank you very much for that insight there. It's fantastic to hear your side of that. And Vince has highlighted that the church's loss is publishing's gain. Of course, otherwise, these stories were born. So this story then, now it's, as Chris said, it was kind of, there's personal stories from within this story, and then go into a publisher and perhaps having a bigger sort of spread around the world, which is one of the questions asking about how that is done from a publishing company side of things. But was there a different level of sort of insecurity with this book going out there, or more like, did you feel more exposed with this book now it's in the hands of a publisher compared to self-publishing?
That's another really good question. Thanks. I don't feel, I do feel exposed because of the nature of the book. I think, it's definitely something that the stories, whether they're fact or not, they're truth, they hold truth in them. So the struggles, if the facts of the story aren't exactly correct, there are actually a truth of a struggle that somebody has gone through that has dealt with all of this stuff in the seminary system. So in that regard, yes, I feel very exposed. And I feel like, the hard part about writing something like this is that everybody thinks it's about me. And there's one main character that's named Anthony, and his personality is absolutely me. But everything that happens to him isn't everything that happened to me. So in that regard, I feel very exposed. People are going to think that, things that I wrote about with this young guy, I wish some of those things would happen to me.
So Mario, one of the questions I was going to ask, obviously, the situation that you were put in terms of your experience with the church and everything like that. There could be people out there that maybe watch this podcast, maybe they're watching it live now, or maybe they watch it in a few years' time, but that have those similar sort of experiences. Now, what would your advice be to them on a personal level, like taking the writer element away from it? What would your advice be to them on a personal level?
With regard to the church?
Well, not necessarily just the church, but that experience of what you went through in terms of something that you were really passionate about, really believed in strongly, and then you had that them sort of turn their back on you in a sense and give you that a real negative vibe and a real negative atmosphere. So what would your advice be there? How would you give people advice to combat that, or to get to work through it, obviously, like you did?
Yeah. I think that, one of the things, and I've been teaching for my entire career now, over 30 years, and it's, I teach in the secondary level. And one of the messages throughout all of this, I would say, is that especially when we're young, and we have this idealized version of, or dream, not version of the world, but a dream, life happens. And it's actually one of the things that the editor said to me when he got to the end of the book. I was like, I can change the end of the book. And he's like, no, this is so real life. I want it to be true. I think that each of us has to follow our passion, no matter what it is. And, look, the time where somebody enters into a career and stays in that career for the rest of their lives, there are very few people who do that anymore. People take different paths. Sorry about that. Different paths along the way. And I think, especially teaching young people, my girls, I teach all girls right now, they're all waiting for college responses now. And in their minds, they know that this is the college I want to go to because I want to be this, and I want to, and if I get into Stanford, or if I get into St. Andrews in Scotland, this is where, and if I don't, then my life is destroyed. And so I'm dealing with that message all the time. Like, I thought my life was destroyed at the end. I really did. I didn't know what to do for a couple of years. I remember coming back after being in seminary and being selected for this really prestigious place. It's like going to the Harvard of the Catholic Church, you know. And then here I am working as a lab technician in my allergist's office, you know, cleaning little vials, you know, sterilizing things for, you know, I'm thinking, what the hell just happened in my life, you know? And then the next thing you know, I get hired as a teacher, and I'm like, this is it. Like, this is what I want to do. I mean, how could, and then, you know, there were a couple of things along the way that should have given me an indication. Whenever they'd ask me to do something, like, I was the director of the choir, I played guitar and I sang, and whenever they asked me to do something on the altar where I couldn't lead the choir, I was like, but I want to do the choir. Ding, ding, ding. Maybe you should be teaching music.
Brandon, hello to you. Says life is a funny way of teaching us, and I absolutely agree with that. And there are things, you know, in my life and Chris's life the last couple of years, from writing to doing this show, that completely make me think that sometimes the path we're on, at the times we might not even think it's the right path, but ultimately tends to lead into the right direction. So you never know, your story might be leading in the right direction. It doesn't matter how dark your path is at that time. So always try to focus on the positivity and the light at the end of the tunnel.
I totally
Lala
agree.
Says thank you. Yeah. Lala says thank you for shining the light and raising awareness, Mario. You are incredible.
Oh, thank you.
So we had a very brief discussion about this just before we came on air, about what happens with the publishing company now, that you have, unlike being a self-published author where you have KDP updates every day and you have feedback, you've now sent this book out into the entire world under somebody else's umbrella, and you know nothing about this for quite some time. Right. How does that feel, and what's that like?
I like control. and I don't have control over this. You know, I'm very much at the mercy of the publisher, but that's where the trust comes in. I mean, and in making the decision and saying that I follow my gut, I really do believe they want the best thing for me, because my success is their success. You know, so they're invested in it. And but it is hard, I have to say. Like, I looked on November KDP and I'm like, oh, I sold like 9 books, which was a lot for me. You know, there was like a dry period, and I'm like, oh, but I didn't sell any. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. You know, this new book isn't on there. I don't know. So, you know,
well, it's an exciting time, and we're very happy for you to be, you know, on that journey. It's exciting for all of us to watch you go into that journey as well. So we're very, very proud of you, Mario. I hope it goes very well.
Mario, you've talked a little bit about how personal your books are, and we know from having you on the show before that you've written another book that's extremely personal to you. So I guess my question is, what's your next book going to be after this one, and how are you going to sort of approach that?
So yes, I finished a book. I'm going to pitch it tomorrow. I guess tomorrow's Pit Matt, but I'm going to pitch. It's a book about my parents' love story, and you know, my parents born and raised in Italy, and strangely from the same little town in southern Italy, but they didn't know each other. My father moved to New York City, and without getting into the complexity of the whole thing, they ended up writing to each other because the families were connected somehow. And they wrote to each other for 2 years, not having ever met. And after 2 years, they decided that it was time to meet, and if their feelings were as strong when they met in person, that they would marry. And
fascinating story.
Yeah, that is a lesson for everyone out there right now. Like, get off Tinder. Don't be speaking to pen
pals.
Yeah, write letters to each other for 2 years, and then if you meet and you still like each other, get married.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, this was one of the most beautiful things, is that I have about 20 letters that they wrote. My mother found them after my dad died, and she knew she kept his. She didn't know that he kept hers. So, so those frame the story. So I write their whole story, this love story, and spending time with my mom, who's 89. And having her read the letter and then put it down and say, "Can you believe how romantic your mother was? Can you believe your father said this to me?" And I'm like, "No, I can't." And it was heartbreakingly beautiful, and it tugged at my heartstrings, and I had to write this story, and it's a legacy of love, and it's true life, and some great things and some hard things, and they made it through, and nearly 60 years of marriage. So, I the squid man. Yes, Connor. Yes, indeed. But so I'm going to pitch that. I actually, 2 agents have already asked me for at least 100 pages of the manuscript. And so that's out to them, but who knows what's going to happen with that. So
it's fantastic, Murray, really is.
So I'm very excited. I want this to be out while my mother is well. I want, so having said that, if it doesn't get picked up by a publisher, I'm self-publishing this. My mother needs to see this in print. Like, this is my gift to her. So, and it's a beautiful story. So
yeah, everyone, there's no one that's heard you speak about that story and is not fascinated by it, or wants to be involved, or wants to read about the romance and the history and the connections there. It just sounds absolutely wonderful. So again, all the best of luck with that, and I'm sure it'll do fantastically well. And Pit Mad tomorrow, yes, it is. And also on top of that, anyone who took part in NaNoWriMo that just ended, absolutely well done and fantastic to you if you did complete 50,000. If you didn't, don't worry about it. Honestly, it's not the end of the world. There's always next year with it. And but if you have finished that, congratulations and well done for the effort you put in. So should we move on to the next part of the show?
We should indeed.
Yeah, some quiet nods going on there. Let's have a look at a new family member. And I did have to just go and find that because I lost who that was. So let's get on with this. How'd you like that, Mario?
I loved it.
So today's new family member. Before we highlight this person, Mario, is there a certain gift that you'd like us to send this person?
Yes. A Lucifer gift.
Yeah.
Nice.
So everyone that's watching this right now, and do you know what? Even if you're listening next week, it might be still kind of funny just to keep doing this every time the show's heard. So if you can go onto this person's Twitter and plague their Twitter with gifs of Lucifer, the TV series Lucifer, Tom Ellis from Cardiff, by the way, we will do that. So soul to page @page_soul. Writer, journaling coach, energy practitioner, and stationary floozy. I'm not quite sure what that means. But if we can go and find this lady right now and send her a GIF, say lots of love from the Writing Community Chat Show, if you like. Otherwise, it'll get completely freaked out. And send her a GIF. So thank you to you guys if you do that. Have you found her, Chris?
I think so. I've just followed it. This one?
Give me a second. I'm looking at 2 screens. That's the one.
Yeah.
So Lucifer gifts, yeah? Let's get it on. Sorry, guys. This is the time that everyone who listens to the podcast is going, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah, what's going on? Why are they all so quiet?
The trick is now Ross and I are trying to find new ones because we've exhausted our storehouse of Tom Ellis Lucifer gifts. So we keep searching.
The one of him getting out the pool is like pretty impressive, isn't it? To be honest,
it is pretty impressive. Yes, that will always be in my storehouse.
Ross says he's vaguely familiar with Lucifer gifts. Okay, so let's have a look at some questions, guys. This is the time that we'll answer some questions together. They can be a bit silly, they can be writing based, so if you've got some, send them in. There's a couple I've got here. In fact, there's a couple from a Twitch channel that I've started following, and Brenna nailed it is the Twitch channel, and she does a writing thing on Twitch, and it's fantastic. And we've been chatting between the show and highlighting certain people, and trying to highlight this show as well. So her guests put a few questions up earlier, so let's have a couple of those. No. What is an intro bang? Any ideas?
Is that a posh phrase for losing your virginity?
No, I had to research this, guys, and what it is something that I used quite a lot in my recent novella, and it is where you put a question mark and an exclamation mark in the same at the end of a sentence.
I do that all the time.
Well, that's an intro bang. So now you know. I do that all the time too.
It makes sense. Interrogatory, with a bang.
Well, there you go.
I usually say, see how you are, question mark, exclamation point. That's it.
Oh, there you go. Connor knew.
Connor, you know that.
JCP also knew, and Ross did. Ross and Connor victorious. Yeah, so I had to actually research that, but then went, I do that. So there you go. That's a bit of a lesson learned this way. And this is more of a deep question that I think someone mentioned in the chat a few weeks ago. How often do you use beats in dialogue? This is a bit upper class for our show. This is.
Yeah, a bit Shakespearean, that.
Do you know about this? I'm sure Connor mentioned it, No. Well, beats in dialogue apparently is where you sort of take the reader back out of the conversation a bit with certain text in the dialogue, if that makes sense. So you don't just speak the correct entire dialogue; you kind of bring them out with action as well. Yeah,
I do that. In fact, there's going to be some of that in my reading on Friday. I'm doing the virtual book fair, and there's definitely, something that happens in between the rest of the dialogue.
Chris is looking very, very confused right now. What
I'm saying is very confused right now. Like, what?
What I'm saying is, like, if there's a description of this saying, like, the guy said this at the car window. Instead of just saying the guy said this at the car window, it'd be the guy said this at the window and then step back. So you're putting in the reader's head that he was stepping back, and that gives him an insecurity about the situation. So that it's like a beat to the sentence and the dialogue. Does that make any sense?
It does make sense, but I don't think Elmore Leonard would be doing that, and I'm a big Elmore Leonard fan, so maybe you could just keep it simple. Chris is frozen, so maybe the beat element as maybe you've been banished from Twitter as a result of
that. He's taking a beat, Hools.
Yeah, this would be a really elaborate way to make a point, Chris, if that's what you do. If that's what you're doing. But yeah, I'm sure he'll be back at some point.
At least he's not frozen showing us his plumber's crack. So, I mean, we could be thankful for that.
Oh, he's frozen again. Don't know. Oh, and he's not frozen now. He's doing some sort of sexy dance. He's trying to entice us.
I like it.
I'm back. That was weird.
I was half expecting you to come back with a change of costume.
See?
Is he? There we go.
Like action beats. I guess so, yeah. I would imagine that's what it's called.
Yeah.
So if not in fiction, book writing, how would you express your writing if you couldn't do it in fiction or book writing? I guess, Mario, you're quite musical, so that would come out in a musical fashion.
And So in my programming, if you come to a concert of mine, I bring you from the first beat of the song, as it were, to the end of the concert. It's an experience. And there's an arc, and then I'll bring you to the end. So, and I know what I want you to feel, so yeah.
That sounds fantastic. Mario, if you could cast main characters in the movie version of New Men, who would you cast, and why would it be Tom Ellis in every role?
Oh, Connor. Yes, because Tom Ellis is daddy, So first of all, Tom Ellis is way too old for most of the characters in the book, because they're all about 20. They're all 23 to 25. So it would have to be, I don't know, for Ash, maybe Colton Haynes in one of the roles. And I don't know who's some of the, Chalamet, what's his name? The guy from Colby. Do you know that book, Call Me By Your Name, is one of my inspiration books.
Wow.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, that's when I was like, okay, I have stories to write. So,
so Mario, one of my favorite things to do on this show is to make Agate blush. So do you have a scene? Do you have a scene from New Men that you could maybe read that is going to make Agate blush?
Oh my goodness. Let's see.
You know what? It's been a while, so maybe.
Oh, Lord.
When he's looking for a scene, Hooli, when he's looking for a scene,
okay.
Do you eat or drink soup?
Surely you eat soup.
If you drink it, you're doing it the wrong way.
Yeah, I think so.
Make sure it's steamy.
Let's see.
You made me do
I'm
it.
just going to give you a little taste, as it were.
We should have a like blushometer in the corner.
Okay.
Where it just goes up the redder Agate goes.
Okay. Here we go. I'm not going to get really, really hot and heavy on this because, but Kevin felt himself give in to the warmth of Anthony's full lips upon his own. The attraction was clearly mutual, and their lust simmered just below the surface. Kevin had wanted this from the moment they had met on that first day. Everything about him screamed sensuality, and he was merely taken with his sexy body. Kevin fancied everything about Anthony, and Anthony suddenly felt as if he were not alone as a gay seminarian in Rome. I was hoping you'd do that, Kevin said with a big smile. Well, I wasn't sure if you were really interested, Anthony responded shyly. Anthony, you can be pretty dense. I've basically been howling outside your door every night. Seriously, I've been trying to get your attention since day one. Well, now you have it. Now shut up and kiss me again. Their shorts and their t-shirts were swiftly thrown to the floor, and they pressed their sweaty bodies together. Their hands moved with urgency as they explored the objects of their desire. Neither of them held back. And that's all I'm going to say right now.
Whee! Fantastic reading, Mario. I'm not blushing. This is normal face. I've done well there. I've done well.
So
that's the love.
And for you guys, it's just for you, really. I have a straight sex scene in there. So
yay!
No, it's
I mean, to be fair, it looked like Chris enjoyed that one. So
yeah. Hey,
object of desire. It can mean anything.
Exactly.
That could mean a McDonald's. Who knows? I don't know.
I don't think it was, mate.
Yes, Maria is hot. She is hot in the book. Well, not just for Chris and Chris, but it's
I know.
For today, it's theirs.
Into a bag.
It definitely wasn't Intero Bang.
Well, there may be a euphemism.
For the straight sex scene, I actually had two of my buddies that I hang out with. One is the PE chair, and one is the history department chair. And I let them read the straight scene. I'm like, how does it feel authentic to you? And they were like, yeah, that's good. Then I let our school librarian read it, and she was like, depends on who's your audience. If it's just men, it's fine. But if you want women, and then she was like, I want to know what she's feeling. And I'm like,
that's interesting.
Oh, so I rewrote it, and then she sent me fire emojis. So,
well, there's been plenty of those up there. But that's an interesting thing to think about, because you might think you have something wrapped up in a story and you've had perspective of one gender, so make sure you get perspective of both there.
Absolutely.
Very interesting. If you had to choose an animal to help you in a fight, what animal would it be?
Oh, let's see.
Well, Chris.
I mean, a blue whale's pretty big, isn't it? So,
well, what if it's a fight on land?
Still, if that lands on you, you've had it.
Halo said woolly mammoth.
Halo and I were on the same page. I was going to say, a rhino. That's Lolly. That's rhino. It. That's what I was going to say.
Hippo Ross is supposed to be one of the most deadliest things to man. Connor says he choose Halo. Well, if you want to call her an animal, you can, but step back. Halo versus Hippo. Good choice.
Yeah, Halo every day.
I don't know. I go for like a cheetah. Just fast, and I'd run away the other way. I don't know. Cool. Who said that? Aardvark.
Anya's been hitting the tequila.
Tequila. Halo goat.
Halo goat. Yeah.
Okay, another silly one. If you were abducted by aliens and they telepathically asked you who you wanted to bring with you on this spaceship, what 3 people would you ask them to pick up?
Wow. I mean, it has to be you two guys for starters.
Yeah.
So there's course. 2 of the 3.
What the band or us?
No, you two.
Yeah,
not the band. I was thinking of a chef, but then Mario can already cook. So my third choice was going to be a chef, but Mario can.
Mario can cook and play music. So that's
so they're all the musicians out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you two and.
Halo said, "What are the aliens doing to the people on the spaceship?" Well, we don't know. You just need to know if you're going to go or not.
Just we're in it together.
All for one.
All for one for all. Yeah. Let's pick Halo just in case the aliens are up to some dangerous stuff, and she can help get us out of.
Yeah.
So Mario, Chris Agate, Chris Hooley, and Halo on an alien spaceship.
Yeah.
Good.
Sounds like a great show.
Hell of a weekend.
I would bring Anya because I want the tequila to come with us. So
that's a good shout. Yeah,
she does come with a lifetime supply of tequila. Tequila.
It's a tea party. Fantastic biscuits. Sacrifice me first, says Halo. I'd watch that show. Just in case the aliens have hippos. Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
They might do, yeah. It's interesting. So, I don't know. I think, unless you got any more silly questions, guys, I think that's all the silly questions we've got. I can bring tequila. I refuse probing, though. And tequila would be good to none the probes, says Halo. Connor says, I'd pick Anya for tequila, Ross for the lols, and Halo to fight them, while Ross, Anna, and I would sit back and get drunk and laugh. Well, that's a lot of, a lot of pressure on one person. I like it, though. I like this to kick it back. Yeah, so I think what I was getting at is we've only got about 6 shows left till our Christmas show, Hooley.
Yeah.
So
that statement.
Will it be?
It was kind of a question. It was intro bang.
Intro bang. It will be as epic as the Halloween show.
I hope so. It's definitely going to be fun. And drinks. Halo has said, Mario, can you swear at us in Italian?
If my mother sees this, Halo. Vaffanculo. Okay, I did it.
So Mario, maybe when we're talking about the Christmas show, like you're clearly a very talented writer. Could you maybe write a Christmas romance scene that me and Chris could read out on the show for that Christmas show?
I just might be able to do that. That would be very sweet.
That could be your Christmas present to the writing community, and a really good romance story that me and Chris could read out, and we'll see how ready gets.
Ross said, act out.
Yes,
make I get blush.
You know what? You're on. I'll do that.
Brilliant.
I'm still waiting to see if Kristen Bailey's husband draws me in a leopard print jacket after she mentioned it on the show.
Yeah, he did say that was going to happen.
I don't know. I doubt it, but that would be hilarious.
So Mario,
the Christmas.
I was going to say, I think we've the Christmas show is going to be great, but I think when we had you on the show last time, we didn't have some of the questions that we've got now on the show that are becoming writing community staple sort of questions. So one of them you may have heard is you're on your deathbed, you're looking back at your shaking his head. You're looking back at your back catalogue, and what is success to you? What does that look like? What are you going to be happy with?
So I'm going to be happy with the fact that I found the love of my life for this guy who was supposed to become a priest and take a vow of celibacy. That I found the love of my life and have been with him ever since in the seminary, and we got married. So
Fantastic.
That's a perfect lesson that, like, even though you may have dreams that you think this is the way it's supposed to be and you get crushed because they don't go that way, you don't know around the corner it's way better.
Question for Huli. If you were brutally slaughtered by legions of wild foxes, what would your last dying thoughts be?
Brutally slaughtered by legions of wild foxes. Foxes are scary. Like, have you ever heard like foxes doing their thing? That is some scary stuff. So I'd probably be terrified for starters, but then I'd also, now that Halo's asked that question, I'd put partial blame on Halo. So I'd probably think, how has she managed to control these foxes, and who's next?
Victoria says the foxes have weapons. If they're dealing with Huli, yeah, why not?
Foxes, man. I'm going to have nightmares now about our foxes. You know that, don't you?
That's what the fox say. What did the fox say? Oh, don't start that. Connor, would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck? Classic question then.
Wow.
I like that.
Horse-sized duck. Yeah, I think we could all like throw rope around its little flappy feet or something and knock it over. I don't know.
I mean, ducks aren't that intimidating, aren't they? Are they really? But geese, on the other hand, are horse-sized.
Yeah, no, they'd be really bad.
Oh,
but I have to say, Connor, a horse-sized duck just has so many other connotations. I'm just putting that out there. Okay. What are we really saying?
What do ducks look like in Ireland, Connor?
Let's not get racist about ducks now. Come on. Anyway, we're going to have to wrap up soon, Mario, but where can people go and get this fabulous new book of yours?
So they certainly can get it. They can get it on at any site, any bookstore site that they're choosing, Amazon, but they can also get it at 5310publishing.com, and that will have links to it also on my website at mariodell'olio.com.
So Mario, I don't know if this is possible, but have you seen your book in a bookstore yet?
I have not, because the paperback actually comes out next Monday. The ebook was released yesterday, and the paperback comes out on Monday. So, and at that point, they will be in the bookstores. So, and I'm looking for it. Sorry.
Perfect timing.
Ice cream's coming. Quick one, Mario. You'll be happy to know this is my boyfriend's first time watching the WCCS because he's such a fan of yours. He hasn't watched any time I've been on the show, says Connor.
Oh, well, that's because he has the pleasure of having you in his life at every moment, Connor. So why watch on screen when you have the real thing?
What a great comment. That nearly brought a tear to my eye.
Well, I like am
yeah. So, guys, before we do finish up, and we're talking about the Christmas party coming up, any ideas about themes, about games, about fancy dress for me and Chris? You can put it up to votes and send it in, or whatever you want to do, and just let us know, and we'll try and accommodate best what we can get done. There's a few ideas floating around, but we'd like to have your input. We can't have a reindeer stampede.
So I want to know which one of you is going to be Santa and who's going to be sitting on whose lap.
Hey, if I'm sitting on Julio's lap, then something's gone wrong with the show. Have to drink eggnog. I don't think I've ever drunk eggnog.
Hasn't it got like raw egg yolk in it?
I don't know.
It does.
It does?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I could be.
Is this turning into I'm a Celebrity Christmas off?
Yeah, I'm not down with that, to be honest.
Yeah, but you mix it up with sugar and rum or stuff. It's all good.
Oh, if it's got rum in it, I give it a
try. Can you even get eggnog on that side of the Atlantic? I don't know. Is it not a very British thing? Oh, Halo, that sounds wrong. You can have some of my special blend, Connor. Makes you drink
like blood in it.
Yeah. Oh. Anyhow, so I love eggnog from Anya. So it must be quite nice. We'll have to get some for the show, Chris.
Can you put tequila in eggnog?
I don't know.
Does it have to be rum or is it any?
Yeah.
Do double the liquor in it, and you feel nada. I'm in.
Yeah.
You have to feed the chickens vodka. Where's this going? I don't know.
So Mario, like Neil Gaiman, is big for like going round and signing copies of his book, like secretly. So he doesn't go to a bookstore and say that he's announcing it. He just does it in secret. Will you be one of those authors? And if you are, can we see it? Can you record it for us?
I would love to do that. I've done book signings before, and I have at independent stores, at bookstores. They're the best, you know. So hopefully, if this COVID thing goes away soon, maybe by the summer, we can be doing some international book signings.
Nice.
Yeah,
Wales and in England, and
we've got to get our vlog on the go, and it'll be perfect. And we need to get this. We need COVID to go away for this show to develop and meet up with you guys and do some fantastic things.
Yeah, Mario, if you come to the UK and you are signing your book everywhere, me and Aga have definitely got to be there. We'll be by your side, recording the whole thing and going, "Look at Mario! It's Mario! Oh my god!"
We'll be abduct you in a Hessian bag like Ali G does.
I like
just
that.
Wrap you up, and run away with you on camera.
Okay. I'm good with that.
It's ours.
Hey, you never know what adventures come from that. So.
Right, we're gonna have to wrap up because this stream, for some bizarre reason tonight, is getting very jumpy, and it's quite a shame. But I don't want to ruin it. So if we can finish up and just thank you for coming on the show again and sharing your wonderful stories in your history with us, and it's fantastic. But honestly, I hope your book does fantastically well with its published as a published work. So you'll have to keep us update with how this goes and sort of the feedback you get in and how the whole process works. And as the Writing Community Chat Show, we can tweet that out and let people know how it works. So if they get that opportunity through PitMad or something, for example, they've got that advice there with you as well. So thank you, and please keep us updated.
And Mario, eventually I will get around to reading it, and we will post a review from the show's site of this book as well, because I'm really looking forward to reading not just this book, but other books that you've got coming out as well. So, yeah, just great.
Everybody on the chat.
You know, I have to say that this writing. This is great. Lots of love, but I have to say, you know, thank you so much for the opportunity to come on. I was trying to describe you, both of you, to some of my friends who are not on Twitter, because I have one or two of those, and they're like, "Well, how did you do that?" And you know, it's just been. I feel like I know you guys. One of the things I know very clearly is that you support the writing community, you support independent writers, authors, and you're doing a great thing for all of us. And I'm lucky that we've become family. So thank you, and thank you to everybody. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you,
we love
Mario.
you too, Mario.
That means a lot, it really does. And there's so much love coming in on the chat for you. It's unreal. WCCS for life. Yes, Halo. It's only just begun. There's plenty of memories to come from this show, and I can't wait to the day that we can all meet up. So it's going to be fantastic. So keep sticking around and keep supporting us, and we'll support you as best we can. Mario, keep us updated. We're excited for you.
Well, I sure will. Thanks, you guys. Thank you.
And if you're watching now and you haven't done it already, buy Mario's book.
Oh, yeah. Buy Mario's book. Subscribe to us on YouTube, on Twitch, and download our podcast, please, because the podcast is where we generate all our, stuff. So thank you, guys, and we'll see you soon. I'll see you on Friday. Can't wait for the Christmas party either, so stick around. Thank you, guys. Love having you here, and stay safe. Bye.